up, you guys? Welcome to The Imagination. I am your host, Emma, and I'm so honored to have Jeremy Indika back today. For those of you who have not yet met Jeremy or been introduced to him, I have a whole episode where we actually dive really deep into his story. We talk about a lot of the stuff from his past, and it's been about 4 months since we connected. So I reached out to him. I've been seeing he's been working so hard on so many things. When I first met Jeremy, he was already rolling the snowball, and all of a sudden the snowball now is just going a million miles an hour. And I just really wanted to bring him on to talk about some of the stuff that he's doing to evolve our conversation, because a lot of the comments that I got on Jeremy's last episode were things that we didn't talk about. And so I wanted to bring him on and progress the conversation, talk about some of the conversations he's been having, because I think it's really important, a lot of the topics that he's been touching on, and especially listening to the things that he's working on and how you guys can help support those things. So Jeremy, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again. I'm excited about this conversation because I know we've spoken about my story, but now it's almost like it's becoming, in some sense, like more than just my story. It's about a mission, and it's about an adventure in some ways, and it's about like moving forward with the subject and trying to do something good out of it.
I love it. And all the content that you're creating too, your stories are evolving, and how you're telling the stories and the little pieces that you cover, the little topics, those are really thought-provoking. And I think for people too, that's a really great aspect of what you're doing, is you're creating these little short bits of information that are really easy and palatable, answering a question or just talking about a specific subject. And I love how you go about talking about stuff where you almost leave a cliffhanger at the end for people to ponder and think on. It's not always you having an answer. It's exploring different sides of a story and then kind of letting people take that and think about it. And I know you've made me think a lot about a lot of the thought-provoking things that you've been putting out lately.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason why I'm leaving it on that cliffhanger is because I don't have all the answers. You know, it's like I talk a lot about, for example, having conversations with children about private areas and body awareness. And I don't actually have all the answers about how to do that. So actually what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to use my platform and my audience and actually ask the questions. Now I'm trying to write them in a way that you can't avoid thinking about it once you've read the question. I've also used, the other month, used some illustrations. I worked with a cartoonist, and we did some work around just trying to capture people's attention and really get them thinking whether they like it or not. And then I'm kind of hoping that those questions get people writing in the comment section, because even though we all know the comment section can be very toxic, actually it can also be used for some good. And I've managed, which I'm so pleased about, to get some conversations going in the comment section where people are writing their opinion, and then people are commenting on that opinion, and it just starts to evolve into, like, you know what, I like to use the word community. I think that's really nice.
Oh, and you're building that. It's really neat to see that, because this can be a really hard topic for people to engage with, because it's uncomfortable. And especially whether you've gone through it or not, it's not something that many people find easy to talk about, and it's not a normal everyday conversation. So it's nice to see that you're vulnerable enough to almost talk about a piece of your life and something that you've went through, and then offer the opportunity for people to almost respond to you. It's not necessarily invading somebody's space where you're saying, tell me about your story and you need to talk about this. It's, hey, here's my story. Here's my thoughts. Here's a couple different ideas that I have. What do you guys think? Yeah. You know, and I love that it's engaging people on this topic, because ultimately I think that's going to make it easier for people to have these conversations in real life.
Yeah, absolutely. And now I'm starting to see, with the messages I'm receiving and the comments I'm receiving, when I check out who's interacting with my posts, it's not all survivors. I've got a lot of psychologists, people who work in childcare. I've got a lot of parents on my page now, and that is actually one of my big aims. One of my big aims is to try to get this subject on everybody's table. Of course, the survivor community is one of the communities I'm reaching out to, but I also want to try to attract the attention of everybody. And so if I can get parents interested in what I'm talking about, if I can get people who work with children for their job interested in what I'm talking about, that's going to be a great thing, because this is everybody's concern.
Yes. Why is this so hard to talk about? Why
I
isn't
know.
it talked about in schools? And I know that this isn't a definitive answer that we know, but I'm sure it's come up in your mind. What do you think? Like looking back even at your life,
Mm.
why is it so hard for parents to talk to their kids about this? Why is it so hard for a teacher to engage appropriately with a child with this topic and not make it awkward or feel weird about it?
I mean, it baffles me, honestly. It really does. I think maybe it comes from, of course, we know it's stigmatized. We know that it's taboo. But I think a large section of it comes because people don't think it would happen in their home. People don't think it would happen in their community. People think that it's something that happens somewhere else. Maybe one of the reasons for that is because the media portray it as this crazy, monstrous, out of the norm, alien kind of storyline. It's very dramatized, so it doesn't seem like it fits in the average home, but actually it fits in the average home. That's where it's going on. So I think maybe some parents are like, there's no need to talk to my child. I know where they are. They'd tell me if anything was going on. But that's because they don't understand how powerful the grooming process is, how easy it is to manipulate a child into doing what you want them to do, and how secretive this whole thing is. That's why the things that I talk about, such as we should be teaching children about their private areas, or we could call them no-go zones, and what to do if anybody touches them there. For me, that's a simple piece of education. One of the comparisons that I make is that we as people are happy, and necessarily so, to educate our children about strangers. I mean, we just do that from the very, very start, right?
That was
We
all
do
the
that,
education I had
you
was
know?
that. That was it. Yes, that was it.
Yes. So don't talk to strangers. And what's the reason for that? Because they may take you away. They may kidnap you, essentially. Now, when you're telling that to a 5-year-old child, even if you don't mention the fact that it's because they may take you away, you are implying that in your body language and your voice. So for a 5-year-old, that's a pretty scary conversation, but a necessary one, right? Now, when you compare that conversation to the conversation of, these are the areas that nobody is to go near, and if they do, you are to tell mummy and daddy, that conversation isn't actually that scary. Oh, they're the areas of my body that are mine and nobody's to touch. So yeah, I'll just tell mum and dad. Like, that's not very scary. So we're happy to have the stranger danger conversation, but the conversation about private areas just seems to get pushed to the side. And I sometimes think it's because as adults, we're embarrassed about sex. It's like so crazy. It's the most natural thing we do. It's the thing that we all desire. It's the thing we all enjoy. It's what, when you are a single person, what a lot of your decisions and movements are based around, but we don't want to talk about it.
It's why we're here, right? But yeah.
Yeah, and it's why we're here. So why not educate children on simple things? Of course, the conversation with a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old and a 15-year-old, they're completely different conversations. And I don't have the answers on how to do it necessarily. I have some ideas, which I talk about in my videos, but I don't have the definitive answers on how we're going to address this, but I know it needs to be addressed. And I'm trying to encourage the conversation on my pages.
I love that. It is hard, I think, for parents because they think that, oh my gosh, if I bring up this topic, then I have to go all into it. But a child doesn't even know what it is to begin with, to even know
Yes.
to ask those questions. If you give them, like you said, that base information,
Yeah.
right in this area and right in this area, right in this area, these are your areas that nobody touches. A child's just going to say, okay,
Yeah.
cool. I'll come tell you if anybody touches it. Thanks, mom. And that you're right. It's not as scary as people think. And it can
No.
be that easy to divert a situation from happening.
So I'm thinking with the parents that are saying that no, I don't want to do this with my child, it's not necessary, or it may ruin their innocence. I'm trying now to create content that that is showing you, which actually I'm doing this week, which would show you the potential of not having the conversation, right? So I'm filming something with a guy in London on Wednesday, and we are going to try our best to create a scenario of the child and the mother and the conversation being avoided, but the mother knows she needs to have the conversation, keeps going to have it, but gets distracted or keeps putting it off. Then that daughter grows up to be 20 years old and sits her older mother down at the dinner table and goes, "Mum, I've got something to tell you. I was being molested when I was this old. It was going on for 2 years. It was all going on in this home. And I didn't tell you because I didn't know I was supposed to." That's when I feel like people will be like, we should be safe than sorry with this. Yeah. Because I give you hindsight. I'm trying to give you hindsight. I'm trying to show you what could happen if you don't have the conversation. You might as well have the conversation.
Well, and as adults, it's so clear to us what sexual abuse looks like. Where a child, it's not. They don't have that dialogue, that language to know, oh, when somebody does this or that, it's not right, and I need to tell mom. It's almost like the parents just have this theory in their mind that, well, my child, if something's wrong, they'll come tell me. And that's, it's not the case, because it's like you said, the person that the child meets is not a monster. It's their best friend. A lot of times it's somebody that they love and trust. The person that abuses them is the monster, but that usually doesn't come right away. It's not this violent, aggressive act 97% of the time. It's usually from somebody that the child trusts, sometimes even that the parent knows. And it's somebody that you'd never expect in those moments to be capable of doing those things, especially from the child's perspective, because they've been groomed so much to say, this is a friend. This is what I do with this friend. This makes my friend happy. This makes my uncle happy, whoever it is. And it's not something that's ever going to cross the child's mind if it's done right by these people. And I hate to say that, but it's not this violent thing. Usually predators don't just come in and aggressively attack a child. It's this very slow and steady drip.
And that's what people, I don't think, can get their head around, how manipulative the grooming process is, you know. And I made a video, I know we touched on this on our last interview, but I made a video about the Christmas story and showing how that night. And we can see that over years, the child is engrossed in that story. They would never not believe it. And that's how we can see how a child's mind is so easily manipulated, easily molded, and that we should see that. I mean, we all were children once upon a time, and we all remember hearing something from in the playground, or parents telling us something about something. Oh, you just believe it. So why? Yeah, I just think it just needs to be communicated in, I don't want to say better ways, I want to say more ways.
And more frequent. Right? It's like,
yes.
Talk to kids about drugs. We have no problem saying those things and reminding them over and over and over and over and over again. But we don't progressively have a conversation about something that could be almost more damaging to a child than if they got their hand on drugs. You know, like drugs don't taste good. A lot of kids unless they're forced to take it, they might not even think anything twice about that. But somebody touching their body, that's not something that they have, you know, there's no consenting to that, period.
Absolutely. And it's a really good point that you made, actually, because if you put things next to each other, like if your child tried drugs for the first time or got molested, everyone would rather they took drugs one time than got molested one time. It's like the one thing that nobody wants to happen to their children or any child in their family. So it just needs to be given some priority. But I just think, actually, the more I think about this, the more I just think sex needs to be talked about more openly. That's what I think, you know. It's such a secret. It's such a, it's just such a, I don't know, it's just kept in the dark so much. You know, things like, nobody's talking about what we're going to do with these people that are doing these things. Nobody's talking about What are we going to do with the people who have these temptations that have never committed the crime? It's like people think that not many people have these tendencies. But I think if we knew the honest answer, which we never will, I reckon so many people are aroused by the thought of children, but would never do it. But we should be doing something with these people because they may slip up once. But they can't come out and express themselves. They can't say, look, I'm over here, I've got a problem and I need help, because we don't live in that world. So we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot in some way in this area.
What do we need to do? I think you posted a really interesting video that made me think a lot about this, where you actually showed little clips of an organization that is trying to help solve this problem by providing a hotline people can call anonymously. I'd love your thoughts on if you think that's progressive, or if you think that that is almost insulting because it is an illegal thing, that we're almost saying, I support you with that. I want to help you, even though you're committing a crime that you should be going to jail for.
Yeah. Okay. So the video was from a charity called Stop It Now, which is a UK charity, and it's one of the bigger charities about preventing child sexual abuse. And they have released 3 very good, very well filmed clips of people who are watching child sexual abuse material online, and they have offered a phone number where these people can come forward anonymously and say, I need help because I want to stop doing this. Okay, so the reason why I made a video about that is because I think it's a very important point for us to consider, because I related it to my story. Let's say the man that did this was abusing me. For people who is the first time coming to my story, I was sexually abused at 8 years old for 2 years by a man who's 25 years old, and he was a nurse. So nobody would ever thought anybody from that profession would do something like this. Now, let's say, as an example, before he got to me, he started watching videos online, and he knew he had a problem and he wanted to stop, but he just couldn't stop the temptation. He just kept giving into the temptation. Now, imagine if there was a phone number available for him to call to get support when the temptations got so big, he's feeling like he's going to do it. Then he could call that number and they would speak to him and encourage him not to do it, and it will stop him from doing it for another day. Could that then start curbing his intention? Could that then start reducing his desire for children, because he's not watching it so much on the computer screen, because he's got mentors helping him resist that action? Then would he have left me alone? Now, probably the answer is no, but I think we could all agree it may have given me 1% more chance that he would have left me alone, right? Because we definitely know leaving him in the corner and him not being able to reach out to anybody, so he's got this thing in his head and he's dealing with it on his own, or trying to handle it on his own, that's no good. I just don't think that's helpful. I don't know if we can compare this to a drug addiction. I don't know, but let's try it just for a moment. If you had somebody who was addicted to heroin and they had no one to reach out to try, because they're desperate to get clean and they've got no support service around them, we know for sure they're just going to continue using, right? But if they have support services, we increase their chances by at least 1% that one day they're going to get clean. Could we compare it to this? I don't know. I know that a lot of people aren't very happy with those kind of comparisons.
But it is interesting because you're right, with every single other addiction that I can think of, or flawed character trait that maybe we have that we don't want to have anymore, there's resources for almost all of it. Whether it's a behavior problem, we just want to be more productive because we feel lazy. Whether it is drugs, there's rehab centers that you can go to and get support and tools if you want to quit. But that's, I think, a really interesting question, because society right now, when they do find out about offense pedophiles that are actually acting on it, whether it is online or in real life, our immediate reaction is they need to be persecuted. They need to go to jail. And while I don't agree with what they do, I do think in my head, well, if somebody does have that problem, they go to a therapist and they immediately get put in jail. They go to any authority and they're automatically, it's a crime. They're admitting to doing an offensible crime that can stand in the way. They're not getting helped. And so when somebody's thinking, do I actually want to go to jail for this and have my story be public, or should I just continue hiding it because I don't know what else to do? It's when somebody wants help and they can't get it, that's where the gray area, I think, is that not everybody does want help, right? And let's make that clear. People don't. And those are the people that we need to expose. Those are the people that we need to be aware of. But what do we do with the people that are actually saying, I hate that I'm doing this. I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know if there's something wrong with me. I don't know how to fix it if there is. I don't know if I was born with this. I don't know if I acquired this. What do I do to get myself out of this horrible habit that I've developed in this addiction that I want to just not have anymore in my life? And it does. It's what do you do with that person?
Absolutely. Now, for anybody that is becoming angry from what we've just discussed here, let's just take this even one step further backwards and say, let's talk about the people that have this attraction in their head. They are aroused by the thought of children, but have never committed a crime and have never looked at a video online, but they feel desperate to. They feel like they want to do it so much, but they know it's so bad and they don't even want to enter that. In their head, they would never touch a child, but they know things are online. They know they'd get turned on by it. And they're almost like going to do it at their computer. They've never committed, so they're not criminals. What are we going to do with those people? Because I have no doubt that there are so many people walking around with this attraction in their head. They don't want to act on it, but they're 20 years old. They're 30 years old. They have a long life to live. Who knows where their personality is going to go? Who knows one day they're going to be real angry or they're going to be sad and their release is going to be, F it, I'm just going to type it in. I don't care. They're in that mindset. Now they've committed the crime. Maybe we could have stopped it. Right? So what are we going to, the question is, what are we going to do with the pedophiles who have never committed the crime but feel tempted to? That's the question.
100%.
And people don't like it. People don't like it, but I think we need to think smarter about this now, because it's not just about the Jimmy Saviles. It's not just about the Jeffrey Epsteins and those dramatic storylines. It's about everyday storylines. Right? It's seeped into everywhere. And you know, in some ways, us as adults should feel embarrassed that it's seeped into everywhere, because we are the ones that have let it seep into everywhere because we can't get the conversation going.
And if there's not people coming forth to actually, I don't want to say be monitored, but in a sense, for a therapist or somebody to work with them, how are we going to actually understand this? There's so many questions that just aren't out there because there isn't that research done on this. There's not people coming forth and saying, hey, help me understand myself so you can understand me better and you can help other people understand what's going on with people like me. That conversation isn't even had in, you know, the therapy world. It's something that so many people don't even know about. And I think that that's also something that this could potentially strike a conversation about, is how do we conversate about pedophiles in real life? And it's just like your video said, it showed a 20-year-old in one video, a 35-year-old married man in another video. It's not the crazy psycho meth head that's sitting on the couch, twiddling his thumbs and wanting to go attack a child. It's a lot of times the people that are watching these videos are nurses, they're pastors, they're teachers, they're pediatricians. They're everyday normal people. They're fathers, they're uncles, they're grandfathers, right? And we don't have any understanding of this as a whole collective because it doesn't take the form of one gender or one specific demographic of person or one age. This spans so wide and so far. And if we're not asking these questions and looking into them and actually communicating with the people that have these attractions, how are we ever going to answer these questions?
Yes. And it's fascinating that you say that, because I completely agree with you. We are trying to investigate and research and discover why these people are doing this, what is attracting them in their mind, what is attracting them physically, what's arousing them. They have all the answers. We don't need to be spending years doing research programs. They have all the answers. In some ways, it's like the gem is with them. But we are so not thinking about this clearly enough that we will just cross them out. They're dirty and monsters. And yes, if they've committed the crime, they are. But they have information that will help us prevent. But unless we're speaking to them in that way, then we're never going to get that, right? Let's say all the gang activity, right? All the criminal activity of like high levels, all the, let's say, gang members at the top of the tree, they understand how the whole network works. So whilst all the police are spending millions of pounds trying to discover this, oh, they work like this, oh, they work like that, they obviously that they created the structure, the gang people. So they know all the answers of how they've got the best solutions because they know how it works really well. So I think we are in a similar situation here. So until we open these conversations, and would you say we could, it's almost like we swallow our pride and get these people on board? Could you say it's a bit like that?
Yeah, exactly. And having support for people who do actually want to change or prevent themselves from doing something inappropriate with a child, that in itself, just having some type of a support, even if there is some type of penalty for it, or even if there is something attached to it, like a normal program where you have to go through different steps and you're constantly monitored, and even if it's a lifelong program, that would give us such a better understanding of, can this be reversed too? That's another question, right? Like, can you, with the right support, have somebody completely change and not have this habit anymore? Can somebody go back and be attracted to somebody their age and do appropriate things and have healthy relationships in their lives that don't involve minors or children?
Yeah. And for a lot of people would say no. A lot of people would say you can never reverse this. Some people have made the comparisons of, could you reverse being gay? Could you ever not look at, if you're an alcoholic, could you ever not look at a drink and be tempted? And I'll go with that explanation. I'm happy with that explanation, no problem. But at least if we're saying we cannot reverse these people's attraction, then we can at least suppress it in the hope that they don't touch a child, right? Because if we're not going to work with them, the ones that have never committed a crime, if we're not going to work with them, the chances of them touching a child are huge. And once they've touched the child, I don't care what prison sentence we give them. I get a little angry when I hear about the celebration of prison sentences. The child has been attacked already. We missed out. We weren't quick enough. Why are we celebrating that that person got 20 years? He touched children, right? We weren't quick enough. That was the problem there. So if we can work with these people and prevent, right? Prevent or suppress or help them manage this thing like we do with an alcoholic. You know, they're always going to be tempted by drink. Some of them can never be around drink again, but they go 10 years, 20 years clean until they die. Maybe we can start thinking about this like that.
And then learning what types of penalties are appropriate and where support is needed, where it just can't ever be. Because just like with drugs, there's different levels and kinds of people that do this too. Like you said, there's non-offending pedophiles who never will and never have touched a child, watched an inappropriate video, but they know they have a problem. And then there's also on the other end, there's violent abusers who are grooming child after child after child after child and abusing child after child after child after child. And even those degrees and kinds are totally different. And so the fact that we offer the same solution for everybody, where with drugs, you have rehab centers, you have therapists, there's different ways that people can go get support, even if, like you said, even if it never completely cures it from their body, where they never want a drug again or a drink, there's at least the support to make sure that when they do have that temptation, they know how to back off and they have tools to say, okay, I really want this, but I'm going to do this, this, and this so I don't partake in it.
Yes, absolutely. And I think if the children were watching us as adults try to work this out, they would be happy that we had support services for these people. Because if we think about the children, if they could watch us adults try and work this out, they would say, why aren't you supporting these people to reduce the risk? Are you lot crazy? That's what they would be saying to us, you know? And I'm under no illusion that there are plenty of groups and pedophiles who believe that the children love it, who believe that it's advantageous to the children, who just don't give an F, right? And it's all about brag rights, about how many children they touch. It's all about making films of children. I'm under no illusion that is also going on, but that's not 100% of the people that have this attraction. That's a percentage of the people that have this attraction. We think they're all like that. That's what the media portrays.
Well, and we have to face the facts that it's those people that are advocating, trying to get laws passed to lower the age of consent, to legalize pedophiles to be called minor attracted persons. They're the ones that are actually leading the movement, because we're sitting here saying, I don't even want to touch that subject. Do we want it to be progressive in the way that you and I are talking about, where let's look at every option? Maybe they all do go to jail, but how do we identify them? How do we have this conversation? How do we address it so we know who these people are in society? Do we offer them support? Do we offer them some type of like a rehab program? Or do we let the offending pedophiles take the lead and say, I don't want to be a criminal anymore. I'm going to work with my legislation in my state to get these laws passed so nothing can ever happen to me. Right? Because those two things are paralleling right now, and we're not doing our part to stand up against what we're against, which is people trying to make this legalized all around the world and have them be readily accepted into society, even with hate speech laws against them, that we can't even say anything negative about them. Right?
I mean, we just got so much work to do. We got so much work to do and no time. Yeah. Because when we all wake up tomorrow morning, that's another day lost. That's my approach. That's my approach. Because I now start talking about children coming through the system. And what I mean by that is there are children being abused today, hundreds of thousands. Then there are a group of children who are now out of their abuse, dealing with the aftermath. And of course, we know that there are the community of adults who are still trying to work out how to handle this experience. Like, there's a constant conveyor belt of people. So every day that passes, we are losing a day. And I can find myself getting tempted to be really angry at times and frustrated at times, but I have to cage that, because I know if I write content on those emotions too many times, I do occasionally, it just doesn't become something that people want to read on their social media every day. You know, I'm trying to encourage, not shout at, but I do feel like shouting sometimes, you know. So yeah, I just think we've got our work cut out for us. We need to be clever about this. We need to be unique about this. We need to get on big platforms, massive podcasts. We need to get on big TV platforms. Every time I make a proper video on my YouTube channel, like a proper project, I send it to I've got a list of people, and I just send it to everybody in the hope that one day somebody's gonna pick this up, you know. My dreams are, I have two massive dreams. One is Netflix, which I just think is, honestly, when I write those posts, I honestly believe it. Right? I'm not just trying to be over optimistic. Like, I just think you could create something so special for Netflix one day, right? Obviously, it's going to take steps to get to that stage. And another one I've got my eye on now is Joe Rogan's podcast. Yeah. Why can't I get this subject on there? I don't listen to him so much anymore because there's so many podcasts to listen to, but I went through 2 or 3 years of listening to him, and I just think he would be fascinated by a conversation like this.
I do too,
Absolutely.
especially because it's not his normal at all. I
Yep.
don't recall any episodes where he's really talked about
Nope.
child abuse. And that's
Nope.
why I started this podcast, because
Yep.
I was looking for podcasts on this topic, going through, typing in, child abuse or human trafficking or survivors. And like I could count on one hand how many podcasts popped up. And that was devastating to me because there's millions of podcasts out there. And it's like, why aren't people talking about this? And
Yeah.
is it really just because it's that uncomfortable?
Yeah.
It's like, why isn't this being covered? But I think when we start having these conversations like you go to your page, it's not a scary page that you have. It's inviting. It's palatable. You're not going into all these really violent, horrific things. You're bringing up topics that make people think and normalizing the conversation. And there's no reason why we can't do that and adapt to that on a podcast platform or any
Absolutely.
platform, right?
Absolutely. And I am subscribed to your channel, so I check you out. Like every time you're posting something, I go to your channel and I see you're getting growth. And I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. Because we're all on the same team here, It's not like we're all in an industry and now we're annoyed that somebody else is growing bigger than us. It's not about that. Like we're all on the same team here. I go on your profile, I see your subscribers going up. I see you've got videos that are catching the views. And I'm like, come on, you're hitting things from your angle, you're hitting things with your vibe. And we just need hundreds and hundreds of people to we need to flood the market. That's what we want to do. But I have a question for you. So obviously your YouTube is growing, right? Must be an incredible feeling, because my experience is that's the hardest one to grow. And you must get some kickback, I am sure. Yeah. My question is, how do you deal with that negative comment or that negative message sent to you?
That's a really good question, actually. It depends. I've actually had paid trolls. Some of the survivors that I've interviewed, they have people that stalk them 24 hours a day. They're paid to do it. And then they go stalk and troll everybody else that interviews them or talks to them or is friends with them. When those people come on, I usually ask, hey, is this somebody that you know? And if it is, I just block them.
Okay.
To just engage for people that are genuinely concerned or trying to have a dialogue. I'll try to ask a question to them to get them to answer it more in a way that makes them think differently than what they thought.
Yeah.
And try to have a progressive conversation instead of just attacking them, because I'm like you. Whenever somebody wants to support some of this, or whenever they come forth and they don't think it's a big deal, or they try to invalidate it or wonder why I'm talking about it, my first question is, what is wrong with you if you have a problem with me sticking up for children?
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
not, there's something wrong with you if you're against me being against child abuse. What does that say to you, right? But I also know that this isn't a common conversation, and a lot of people still think that this doesn't happen as widely as it does. A lot of people are very confused about why this needs to be talked about or why this is an issue, and having content and pages like yours, bringing people on my podcast like you, it's helpful for people to actually learn from the source. It's like when I go listen to or want to learn about business, I go straight to somebody who's built a business. I don't want to be, and I will be, I'll always speak on behalf of children, victims, survivors, and I'll be a voice, but I'm not the one who experienced it. You are.
Yeah.
There's no better person for my audience to learn from than somebody like you versus me just trying to rattle off things that I'm learning. It's diluted in a way, and
Yes.
like I said, I can do my part to be a voice, but for me, it's like, okay, if somebody's going to hate on me for talking about this, what's wrong with them? Or are they just genuinely uneducated about this? And maybe I can have a really good progressive conversation with them.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great attitude. And that's fantastic. I need to work on this more, because when I receive a negative comment or a negative message, which I don't a lot, I reckon it's 1 in 100, but it's that 1 in 100 that just puts my day off, because I'm like, come on, you're following me. So first of all, before you send the negative comment, press unfollow and just keep yourself to yourself. Yeah. But also they're like, I tell you, it's just things that are, it's not productive and it's not encouraged. It's not useful. I had that the meeting with the theatre company last week on Friday, and I posted about getting ready for it and my way to London. I wanted everybody to be involved in the journey, you
Talk
know?
about that a little bit.
Yeah,
Give
okay. So,
That's so
so
cool.
I've always had this idea about theatre. Because I've been to a lot of theatre in London, and I'm not talking about the West End, which is like the big productions, right? I'm talking about you pay $10, $5. It's all amateur. It's all people who have just come together and got creative, and they're mind-blowing performances. Now, I've always thought, I know that storytelling is so effective in communicating something, communicating a subject. So could we use my story and turn it into theatre and explain how the life of a survivor unfolds? I've always had this idea, and I've often talked about it on my social media. Now, I am coming to a situation where if I don't start generating funds, my mission is going to be over. I'm coming to the end of my savings. For those that don't know, I was an engineer before I did this. I saved a load of money to pursue this project. My savings are starting to run out. So now generating funds is a massive thing in my mind. So how could I generate funds? Create a theatre production that I could sell tickets for. It could be educational, it could be informative, it could be emotional, it could be engaging, it could be powerful. So I was like, right, now I really need to start kicking off this idea. I put together an email. I just briefed out my story in like 5 points. It was about how the abuse happened, speaking out for the first time, trying to prosecute the man that did it to me and failing, and then going and knocking on his door and getting arrested myself. That was the brief that I gave them. And I was like, look, I've just got this idea. I've been telling my story. It's gained traction online. I think it would make a great production. I sent it to 150 companies.
Oh my gosh.
Right? I just Googled theatre companies in London, and inside the big ring road that we have, which is the main of London, I just messaged everybody. And I woke up the next day and I had a reply. And I was just... So the reply was, she obviously, I'd linked my Instagram and my YouTube. So she checked out my work. She was like, I'm very, very interested. Just to let you know, I think your story is very powerful. I think this could really work. And I'm a child psychologist, and also in my spare time, so I know how important this subject is. And I was like, that's what I needed. So she said to me, do you want to meet up? We can do face-to-face or Zoom. And obviously I was like, face-to-face is a lot better. I went to the theatre, and for those that are following, you would have seen I posted every stage of that journey. I posted me on the train. I posted me waiting for the meeting, because we should be excited about these things.
I love that you take people on the journey with you. You don't just update people after. You're like, hey, you're gonna sit on the bus with me. You're gonna ride in the taxi with me. Like, you're gonna come to this meeting with me.
Yeah, I did right. It's a celebrate. This is just the fact we've got a meeting, right? Because even if that meeting is a no, we got one. We got a foot in the door, and we know that it's possible. We created interest, and I thought we should enjoy this together. So that's how I posted about it. Now, the meeting basically was, we are very, very interested in the story. So she is now going to pass it to 2 more people just to get the sign off, and then we're going to do it. So the plan at the moment, the initial ideas are, because it's a small venue, it's a 100-seater. They have productions going on at the moment. So this one would come out in the summer. Maybe we do like 5 nights, which is fantastic. That would be 500 people if you sold out. We would get marketing around it. They would provide all the marketing. Hopefully I could get radio interviews and more podcast interviews to talk about what we're trying to do. And actually what we're thinking, which I think is a really powerful idea, is we would take sections of my story and create them in a theatre style, perform them to the audience, and then after the section, we would do a Q&A.
Oh.
And we'd say, look, this is how we wrote it. Was there anything that you felt was too detailed? Was there anything, where did you feel sad? Where did you feel encouraged? Where did you think was powerful? Where do you think's lacking? And we could kind of start building it with the audience. Then over time, we can put something together and we're confident because we've shown it to many audiences, and then we could try to propose it to bigger people. So that's the grand plan.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting.
Oh my God. I just couldn't believe it.
How amazing to see that type of topic in a theater setting. That would break the matrix on what we're used to seeing in entertainment. Because it's like you said, most of even what we see in entertainment, it's like the movie Taken. You see this like really violent, aggressive act, and there's not a lot of actual representation of what actual child sexual abuse normally looks like, you know, and to do it in a way that's palatable for people. Like you always compare something that you want to do with movie or film or content with the Queen's Gambit.
Yes.
Like they took a really boring subject that like didn't give a crap about a couple years ago, and like now chessboards are selling out, right?
Yeah.
They made something interesting that people don't talk about. This is a similar thing. People don't talk about it. How do you make it compelling?
Absolutely. And what I'm lucky with my story is the sections which are like when I went to knock on his door, when I found out where he lived and knocked on his door and got prosecuted, and then he prosecuted me. Those are the type, like that's good story. Yeah, that's good story, and that's engaging and attractive and interesting for your average person. But then we can throw in all the child abuse bits, right? Because what something there's not enough content on is how the life of somebody who's had this experience unfolds. How many people who have spoken out have been said, oh, you should just move on. I mean, it must be a horrible amount of people. Oh, it will be so good, dear, when you can get over this and move on. That makes everybody angry, but it's not the fault. Usually it's not the fault of the person that said that. It's just a lack of understanding. It's a lack of understanding how significant an experience of abuse or neglect is on your childhood, right? Let's not just categorize it as sexual abuse. Abuse and neglect of any sort, how significant that is on your childhood, and how as an adult, you never truly leave that behind. It shapes you, you know? So if somebody's bullied at school very horrifically, we never say, oh dear, it'll be so good when you can leave that alone and move on. We understand that actually, even when you're 40, that's going to be playing itself out. But with this, you know what? I think sometimes people say that, oh, it'd be so good when you can move on, because they feel like it, they feel sad that it happened to you. They feel an element of responsibility because they're part of the society that allow not talking about it, and it's so horrific. They just want it gone. So they hope you push it away as well. So maybe I could tell my story. Of course, we would build on my basics. We'd use the skills of these directors and these writers, because that is not my skill set. And we try to create an event, engaging narrative with power at the end.
I think it's just incredible. I would love to see more content like that. Like you said, from Joe Rogan's podcast, people that actually have a platform. Why couldn't there be a theater production on this? You know, why couldn't there be a movie or a TV series that we watch that's educational, true to more true to life than some of the stories that are being told about it? Because it isn't being talked about. It's just in the way that it is, it's always dramatized, and it's always a stranger doing it.
Yeah.
It's very untrue to real life. And so I think that's another problem. People are conditioned to say, well, that's not what happens in the movies. What happens in the movies are people aggressively go out, steal children, abuse them, and they look really scary. And that stereotype can be broken so easily through something like entertainment that people can watch over and over and over again and get emotionally connected with, and have characters and actually see it, hear it, feel it. And it's a way that it can help somebody's entire body understand more about what this actually means.
Yes.
And then there's the other conversation. I've heard some survivors also say, it makes me so mad when people sit there and say, oh, make sure that you don't turn out that way whenever you get older too. You need to go
Yeah.
get help. And they're like, that's
Yeah.
so offensive that
Oh
people
my
don't
goodness.
understand it. And that does happen. So that needs to be a conversation that a lot of abusers have also experienced abuse.
Mm.
But at the same time, you're right. Those two narratives, it's either get over it or feel bad for you in the future. Like that's probably gonna
Yeah.
what you're doing. And it's like, gosh, the things that we're even saying to survivors about this are so horrible.
Yeah, so it's so crazy, but I do feel somewhat optimistic about what's happening now, because I feel like we're in a position now where it's more acceptable, or there's more opportunity to speak out than ever before. Chat rooms, Facebook pages, YouTube. I mean, anybody can create a social media page and share their story, but that people are creating platforms where other people can share their story. It's almost like, could this be like how we saw speaking out about being gay? What we saw with that, right? 40 years ago, you just wouldn't say it. 20 years ago, you'd hear the odd thing, but people would be, dismissive about it. Now, of course, depending on what area you live in, but there are some areas in London where men freely hold hands, freely expressive about their sexuality. We've seen a progression to make it more accepted, and even maybe a powerful move to come out that you would be gay. Could we do the same with speaking out about child sexual abuse? I think we've got a long way to go, but could we do it so that the young teenagers or the children that this is happening to now, by the time they get to their mid-20s, which is usually the time that people are speaking about their experience, could we set an environment where they feel comfortable and confident to do that? That would be a great thing.
I 100% agree. And I love also what you're doing with your website. And I'd love for you to talk about that because that's also really exciting. I think that we're doing that across multiple platforms, creating different ways for people to consume content that's palatable and that's engaging and that makes people feel like they're a part of something. And it's not something they're watching or feel disconnected from. Like you're very involved with the people involved with you.
Yeah. So I'm trying my best now. I got 5 platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn now I've just kicked off, and TikTok. So I actually post similar material on all of them because it's just me. I would like in the future to have a team of people and we adjust the content for different platforms. And of course, I've got my YouTube where I post the longer videos. I've now got a website coming out. Now, the reason for the website is because I want to start approaching corporate companies and schools. So I want to start approaching corporate companies first, and I am putting together a plan, and I am thinking what I will say to them is, look, here's a brief of my story. This is what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. This is how I got to this stage, and this is where I see it going in the future. It could be an informative presentation. It could be an educational presentation. It could be an inspiring presentation. It could be about business management, because essentially I'm trying to create a project here. And I could present it as a large number of your employees would have children themselves. And I talk a lot about education. So if I could, one of the reasons why I created the website is because when I start approaching these companies, which I'm hoping to do soon, I can say, here's my jeremyindika.com, not here's my Instagram, because, it just doesn't, I'm trying to make this a real thing, a real official thing. I'm trying my best to stay away from becoming a charity, and I'm trying my best to stay away from becoming a non-profit organization. And the reasons for that is because as soon as I become a charity, I have so much red tape and rules and regulations to adhere by, and I don't think all of them are helpful. So I want to be independent, which also means that I need to create a business out of this, right? And, when I've talked about how to generate funds, I get the odd comment about, oh, now you're trying to make money out of your, Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I am trying to make money out of my story, because how else am I gonna do the other things in this project? I swear people think that, and actually I shouldn't be angry at them, because if you never created content online or ran a social media page, you don't understand that actually it's a full-time job. You know?
And you're on so many platforms.
Oh my God.
So I get that too from people. They're like, I can't believe that survivor that you featured has a book. They're trying to monetize their story. And I'm like, yes, and they should be. Do you want them to have to go work a 9-to-5 job and then try to find room in their life to help other people? Or would you rather them get paid for helping other people so they can help more people?
Yes. You know, they're doing a service.
Yes.
Right?
You deserve to be paid for your time. You're giving free education to people right now.
Yes. You know,
your spare time.
Yeah. You know, you're providing something for people to read or consume, right? So monetizing it and the criticism around that, well, we're just going to have to deal with it, because I don't think it's ever going to stop. So yes, I am trying to monetize this. I am trying to get into corporate companies, and hopefully if I can grow big enough, charge a fee. I am trying to bring out merchandise with my logo on it. Now, my logo is something to say. And the reason why it's something to say is because I had something to say, and that's how it started. Now I'm going to try, I release my logo on posts in my social media platforms. I'm actually going to start creating a new page, which is called Something to Say. And I want it to represent being bold. I want it to represent being forthcoming. I want it to represent taking life by the scruff of the neck and running with it, because that's what Something to Say means. And so if I can start building that as a brand, then I can sell merchandise for it, and people can wear a t-shirt with Something to Say on it and feel proud about it. You know, what I want is, I want men to wear it. Of course I want women to wear it as well, before anybody comments on that. I want a man to wear it and feel proud, because he knows what that represents, right? Because we are trying to encourage men massively here. So I am trying my best to make this my life's work before it's too late. Too late meaning I run out of money, because once I run out of money, I go back to work. And then even if I go back part-time, it means the progression of this becomes part-time. Now, if you are following me, you may have seen that I've started posting the odd message from people, right? Now, I have posted one from a teenager who expressed that they got strength and courage through my work. I received one from a parent saying that through seeing some of my educational videos, they spoke to their 9-year-old daughter, and because they spoke to their 9-year-old daughter, their daughter disclosed that something was happening to her.
No way.
Yeah. Oh. And she signed off the message saying, "Thank you for everything from me and my daughter." Right? Then I received another message from an elder person saying that, "I will never speak out about this because I feel like my time has passed and I don't want to open that can of worms, but I watch your content and it gives me strength and courage," right? So I have to continue doing this. I have to. So the pressure is on. The pressure is on. I feel the pressure, but my God, this is motivating.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I love that you're trying to, because the way that I look at this movement, it's going to be an industry one day. One day, there will be people like you on Joe Rogan's podcast, on a TED stage,
yeah,
on big platforms, giving seminars that people are sitting in a giant auditorium, listening and taking notes and learning. Yeah. One day there'll be professions where people can get more involved with this, and there'll be different aspects of that, whether it is content creator or in social work or a therapist. It'll be a bigger part of society. I love that you're building that right now. And I love that you're pushing for, I think that's really motivating for other survivors who do feel guilty about, well, I don't want people to make fun of me for making money off of my story. No, do it.
Yeah.
People advocating for this.
Yes. And
where can people support you? Where can people donate to you?
Okay, so I do have a donation page live at the moment. It is jeremyindika.com/donate. If you go there, you'll see the little bit that I've written about how we got here. The full website is coming out in a couple of weeks. Please check out my YouTube. I've got plenty of videos going on there of all different various styles, however you like to consume your videos. Check out my YouTube. Check out my other social medias. As I mentioned, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok. I'm posting nearly every day. I'm trying to create conversation nearly every day. And we are definitely moving forward with this.
Oh my gosh, it's so exciting. And it's such an honor to have you on here, Jeremy, again. We're going to have to do this a little bit more often before another 4 months goes by. Maybe get people updated on the theater stuff and have some more conversations. But I'm just so grateful for you. The second that I saw and came across your page, I was motivated instantly, especially seeing such a strong man being able to be vulnerable enough to talk about such a hard subject, not just to motivate other men, but just people in general. We all experience trauma on some level, you know, and it's so funny that it's taboo because we'll go watch success stories all day, even though 1% of people will get that level of success. But we have a really hard time talking about stuff that we all experience every day that can actually really bring us together. And I love that you're doing that. And I just appreciate you. Thank you for everything that you're doing. You've helped me learn so much. I'm always looking at your videos and it teaches me stuff because I've never gone through this personally. So it's nice to have people like you educating. So just thank you for everything that you're doing, Jeremy. And I'm so excited to get updates on what's coming up next for you. And I cannot wait to have you back on again.
Thank you so much for having me on. And like, we should just do this, you know, every other month and just catch up and see what's going on. And thank you for everyone who listened. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I would love that. Let's definitely do that. I'm pretty sure viewers too. You've been somebody I've had people say, get Jeremy back on. So I'm sure I'll keep getting that. So yes, let's connect soon. For everybody listening, please share this episode. It's the best way that we have to help grow platforms like Jeremy's, to help get his voice out there, to help educate people. I know it's hard to talk about this stuff. Sometimes it's just as easy as taking a link that somebody else created for you. And that's a really easy way to share and educate people. And as you can see, this conversation, it's not very easy to listen to, but you learn a lot from it. And it's palatable in a way that people can start getting on board with understanding what we need to do to tackle this massive issue in our world. So please share this, subscribe to all of Jeremy's links. I'm going to have them all below for all of his social media. Please donate to him. I can't stress that enough. Please help survivors. I know that there's all these organizations saying that they're helping kids, and that's great. But I always say, go right to the survivor that's saying, hey, I'm here too, and I'm working on something. Give them your time, attention, energy, and money. It goes to really, really amazing things that they're creating right now to help bring more awareness to this, to grow their own careers, to grow their presence in the space, to have their voice heard more. And as you can see, Jeremy's doing some amazing things. So please, please, please donate to him. It would mean the world to me and to him. Please share this episode, subscribe to us, like, comment, share, do the same thing on all Jeremy's content. And just thank you guys so much for supporting. It means the world to me. And Jeremy, thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you soon, guys, and we'll see you guys next week.